I'm Vivian Yor. I'm Sierra Baker.
I'm Olivia Clark.
I'm Logan Baker.
Welcome to Spiked Up.
Welcome to Spiked Up.
Welcome to Spiked Up.
I think we're live.
Cool.
Spiked Up Live here in Runners Roost, Denver.
Yeah.
Here with Andrew Simmons talking about the road to state. I guess before we get going, let's give a shout out to sponsors. You want to throw some in there?
Yeah, I'll throw a couple in there to start. Sponsors, super thankful. One to Scratch Labs, who's joined us tonight as part of our raffle, as well as Koros, both watches. We're going to be raffling off a heart rate monitor tonight, and as well as Runners Roost Denver, who's kind enough to give us a happy home here tonight. So if you guys see some people in the background, they're supposed to be there.
Also, huge shout out to 9 Watt Market, 303 Running, kind of making Spiked Up Live, taking it off the ground. So now that we've got the advertisements and the sponsorships, I guess there's a lot to talk about. State meet in about a week.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of go through the classifications, kind of not in order from 1A to 5A or 5A to 1A, kind of jumbled around. But before we get talking about that,
we got some headlines.
Yeah. Let's talk about the weather, though.
Yeah, the weather is, I think, going to be nearly perfect. I did a little deep dive today. Thursday, 67. Friday, 71. Saturday, 73. Temperatures are going to peak between 2 and 4, so kind of perfect in terms of weather, I think. Wind is supposed to be pretty low, so I think we're on tap to see probably some really fast times, as long as the races are run in a non-championship style, but it is a championship meet, so we'll see what happens. But I think it's gonna be a fast one. At least the conditions are ripe for it.
There's going to be PR weather.
That's exactly.
I think it's
what
all
it is.
depend upon how people race.
Absolutely.
You want me to start off with 4A?
Yeah, let's start with 4A. I know we had a couple of things though. Kick off. Like, we're still catching up with all of the results, like literally looking at results as we come in here. And we still have some people popping in. So excited you guys can just grab a raffle ticket when you guys come in. It's totally live.
There's not too many seats left. So just,
guys,
wherever you guys can find spots.
Push the mannequins away. But yeah, I mean, we're even still looking at results as we both came in here today. And so we're still trying to catch up with everything. I know that some people are still up in the air, whether they're going to state, who's going to stay and what, and where are things going to go. So I mean, we saw a record go down not too long ago.
Literally, obviously we're still trying to shake out that top 18, but some people are focused on running fast, like the Eagle Crest girls 4x1, 46:41. That's a state record, just dropped today. That took down a state record that was just run several years ago. So obviously the Eagle Crest girls relay is ready to roll.
Yeah, no kidding.
And if you're running a state record the week before the state meet, I think you're in a great position.
Right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Right where you need to be. And even today, just one of the things that just popped in as I looked, Golden High School girls just ran a new number 6 facility record there. So that was a sub 4 minute 4x4. So super excited to see that. And I think the Thunder Ridge boys even put up a new Colorado number 11, and that's all classifications. So excited to see that. That was at Windjammer just a couple hours ago. So we got a couple people that are joining here after even racing today. So super excited to see them in here. Super thankful that they took an evening to pop in with us. But I think we're going to start today 4A.
So on the topic of meets are still going on, I want to say we're referencing sometimes in some rankings that might not be accurate in 12 hours or even 2 hours from now. But this is the information that we have as of at the moment, because obviously today is the last day for people to qualify for state or to try to finish off their season. So the information we have is what we got. But
absolutely.
Looking at 4A girls sprints,
I mean, it's Kiana Cummings. Is there a possibility she goes and sweeps?
It's possible. So I kind of feel like she has a huge I can't speak. She just ran 53.89 last night at St. Vrain, meet record. That's a Colorado number 1, all classifications. She's also at 5A number 1 in the 200 as well. So she's number 1, 200, 400. running her best, again, the week before state, it doesn't get any better than that. That's when you want to have that confidence building into the state meet. The question, though, I feel like is she's going to have challengers.
Yep.
But who are the challengers? I'm thinking Kylie Klatt is one. Reyes Casper also was leading that 400 yesterday and ran a 54:38. And the thing about Reyes is she's more of a hurdler.
Yep.
So I'm kind of questioning, like, does Reyes run the 400 as well? Because that 54:38 is obviously qualifies her state, puts her in the running for a state title. But I really feel like if we're kind of dissecting this a little bit more, Kiana's got the bullseye on her back. Like, she's, in my opinion, she's the favorite heading to state in the 2 and the 4 at least. And then the 100, that's the question mark.
100%. And I think that's what makes this whole thing really exciting is we don't know who's going to run what. Even at this point, there's a chance, like, we may see some people that try to go for 4 events and that ends up running that if they're going to do prelim and finals, especially in those sprints, we don't know if they're going to, do all those or they're going to do one sprint event, prelim, so we'll see if they're doing well. I mean, you could see some athletes, if they do the 1, 2, and 4, that's 6 races.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Particularly with the sprints, having prelims changes things. Because you're not just kind of going and then just exploding and then throwing everything you have on the track and then you're done. No, you actually have to consider your lane assignment for the final, getting to the final, like you're kind of gauging your energy. So there's a lot that goes into it.
You just don't get that experience to run rounds, right? You think about the national level and even into the collegiate level, like part of the strategy is, okay, great, you ran a good opener, but now you got to run rounds. So it's like, you don't want to show all your cards just to get to the finals, because then what do you have for finals? So it's tricky because you never get another chance in the season to do that.
Yeah. And before we kind of get on the distance, I will say, since I already mentioned Reyes, the hurdles, 13. I think she ran 13:99 in the 100 hurdles yesterday, 41:52 in the 300 hurdles. She's been insanely dominant, and especially in the hurdles in terms of the state of Colorado. I don't think she's lost a race. And even though we're only talking about 4A right now, in my mind, that is the only name for the girls' hurdles. And I could be totally wrong, and by all means, someone prove me wrong. But I'm just saying, looking at the stats, looking at the season, Reyes has been on fire all season long. She's been running better every week. Even more specifically, running again her best of the week before state. 100%. That's exactly when you want to do it. Girls hurdles, in my mind, that's kind of, she's definitely someone you're going to want to watch in reference to dominance and how fast she runs.
And speaking of dominance, like as we go through the list, like we're looking at like girls pole vault, shot put, and even like into the distance side of things, we got Tegan Olson in the pole vault. Recently just went 13 flat, which is amazing. Shot put, we got Jade West out of Niwot.
4.
That's insane.
Yeah, she's actually, I did not check this morning, but I've been trying to check the results. I want to say she leads the entire state, this is all classifications, by 6 or 7 feet. So when I write the word dominant right here on our computer screens, that's kind of what I'm referring is she hasn't lost all season. She's kind of in her own competition. 47.4 for the shot put for girls is ridiculous. That's otherworldly. So.
And then we're right into distance. Like Rocco Culpepper last year, went 8 in the 16 both. Will we see him defend?
That's a good question because I feel like the boys, the 4A distance is questionable in my mind because there's so many different guys this year.
Yeah.
I feel like we saw Rocco last night. He ran 4:10. Finally, I felt like kind of ran something that is closer to what we can expect of him because I feel like he's definitely more of a kicker. He likes to sit. But when I look at these 16 and the 8 specifically, because I believe Quinn is actually his own teammate has run a little bit faster in the 8. How the race is run is the question for me.
Yep.
Is it fast or is it a kicker's race? If it's a kicker's race, I don't think I'd want Culpepper anywhere near me.
100%.
But if we're looking at a faster race, that brings, in my opinion, a handful more guys into the equation. I mean, if we're looking at these distances, specifically the 16 to 32, in my mind, it looks like a Niwot versus Coronado versus Cheyenne Mountain. Like these 3 schools have multiple athletes, like 3 to 4 athletes per school that are actually filling into these top 18. And obviously a lot of team points are going to come from those races. But in my mind, having multiple teammates in there with you, that adds to strategy as well. Like, you're obviously working together. How are you working together to beat other teams?
And I also think like it's kind of the same story on the girls' side, right? Yep. We're going to talk about Niwot and Air Academy. And again, we didn't see Air Academy so much on the boys' side with the, Coronado, Cheyenne Mountain. But you think about 3 schools, Coronado, Cheyenne Mountain, Air Academy, like Colorado Springs is really bringing the heat for sure. I mean, we got Addie Ritz and High all the way up at Niwot. So Boulder's definitely going to bring some challenge there. I think like, as a team goes, like it's hard to see that they wouldn't take it because this is 9th consecutive year for Niwot.
They've got a streak rolling.
Yeah.
And I feel like they haven't had the amount of depth that they've had in previous years.
Yep.
But they still have, like, again, looking at Reyes and the hurdles, and then you've got Addie, who's likely to run everything from the 8 up to the 32. They do have a lot of people who can actually still score some points. I mean, looking at the distance of for girls, I'd be curious, not curious. I'd say Addie's in a great position to sweep. She swept the 16 and 32 last year. She ran 4:46 last night, leading almost the entire race. Yeah. And I kind of talked to her a little bit afterwards, and she was just totally chill about it, like totally content with the performance. Seems like she's feeling great. She ran 10:26 a little over a month ago as a solo 32. I feel in my mind she's kind of in her own race.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think without Rosie last night, I don't know if we would have seen the same times.
Yeah.
But I think because both of those athletes were there, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I talk with my athletes a lot about the idea of like a worthy rival. A worthy rival is someone that goes out there and pushes you and asks you to be your best. Mm-hmm. I think if Rosie hadn't been there last night to push her,
it wouldn't have been that.
It wouldn't have been that. So super exciting. But also, like, I'll have to go look at the schedule. But like, if weather's good, like,
it could be fast.
It could be really fast.
And that's why I'm curious too, because with Addie, like, she has the potential to just kind of go off and do her own thing. But you've got Air Academy, you've got Tessa Walter, Kimora Cooper. Kimora's been running great as of late. She ran 4:52, I believe, and then 10:39 yesterday morning. Tessa ran 4:55 at St. Vrain last night, and 10:26 like about a week ago in 32. So actually that 10:26 is comparable to Addie's. It just depends on being in the same race and how does the race play out.
Yep.
But I feel like if there's anyone who can potentially push Addie, it's coming from Air Academy. It's likely to be Kimora or Tessa.
100%. And I think also with that too, like, it expands to like exactly like you said, like who's the kicker, mm-hmm. or how does the race play out? If Addie takes it out really hard, I don't know if anybody's gonna be brave enough to go with it, right?
Yeah.
There is
and
that
she's
block.
used to it. She's used to it. That's kind of the whole thing. The whole thing is having confidence with going out and running that,
100%.
Running from the front. That's something you have to do to learn. Before we move on though, like I kind of want to talk about, this was one of the questions that we got on Instagram, but I feel like we can almost just jump into it just because we're talking about it. Talking about a bit of a dark horse on the boys' side.
Yeah.
Like when I was talking about the 16 and the 32s, we're mostly looking at Coronado, Niwot, and Cheyenne Mountain, but Thompson Valley's Curtis, I'm probably going to pronounce this name wrong, Smella, 4:12 last night at St. Vrain. Mm-hmm. What's in my mind exciting about him is the fact that he's PR'd every time he's raced.
Yeah,
that's from the 8 all the way up to the 32. Every time he's competed in an event, he's run faster than he did before. And this is a guy who I talked about a couple weeks ago about. He was running mid 420s in the 16 last year. Runs 420 to qualify for state the week before state. Runs 4:15 at state. Yep. So obviously he's used to having that curve. And then again running 4:12 last night. That's a PR by a little over 2 seconds. You're somebody that could potentially kind of be in the mix of that whole Niwot Coronado Cheyenne Mountain team competition. It'd be interesting to see if he steals the show while all three schools are sort of looking at each other.
Yeah. And I mean, you think back to the Olympic final there's some people that may be there that are looking at each other and comes right from behind.
They're not looking on the inside lane because they're looking on the outside lane.
Exactly. And I think too, the only other thing I want to mention in 4A before we moved on from that, like, is we had said, like, Coronado's definitely a big player here in 4A, like could potentially be an upset here. Air Academy, we've mentioned a lot, but like, if we look at the relays, like I took a moment this morning in the 4x8, Coronado has the state lead, but Lewis Palmer in 5th. They're only 6 seconds back. So you have 5 teams in 6 seconds. Like, that is literally a game of handoffs. Mm-hmm. That is 100%. It can change completely in the exchange zone there. If someone just bumps into another, it's so tight.
It's happened. Batons have fallen because of tight races in the past.
And the girls too at Niwot, Air Academy, Conifer separated those 3 teams by 4 seconds. So like, it could really get interesting.
What I like with this is, again, we've been talking about the same schools almost over and over, and minus Lewis Palmer and the boys, which you mentioned. But Conifer, I mean, for the girls side, we're looking at Niwot, Air Academy, but Conifer bringing 4 girls for the 4x8, that'd be kind of a nice mix compared to what we're used to seeing, we're used to hearing on the track.
And I think it's a mix of girls too. If I have the people in that 4x8 right, I think like Gianna's in there, and then Kate Hornick's in there. She's a senior headed off to Western Colorado. And then I think it's underclassmen for the other 2 spots. So I mean, realistically, they lose one this next year. It could be really exciting to see where they go next year.
Yeah. Nice.
I think we're in a 1A, 2A, kind of putting those 2 together, and talking a little bit about sprints.
So boys sprints, I guess the question here that I've got is, can Rylan Wolf, he's a Haxton senior. I'll come to the story in a second, but can he sweep the sprints? That's the 100, the 200, the 400. Currently he's ranked number 1 in all 3 events. But what's interesting here is this is the first year he's run track. He's played baseball previously. And so here's a guy who's running track for the first time, heading to Jeffco for state for the first time. And he's number 1 in the state.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a favorite because of everything he's done already. But the question, in addition, can he sweep is, Jeffco Stadium on Saturday.
Some energy.
It's wild. It's stressful. It's, there's lots of anxiety in the air. There's lots of excitement in the air. Being there for the first time, what does that do to you?
Right.
Obviously he's done a lot of other sports, so he's used to being a competitor. I would imagine he's just going to turn and burn with it and be totally fine. But it's going to be, I think what's exciting with this is seeing someone who's never running track for the first time might win 3 state titles. That's not normal.
And go through rounds and do everything. Yeah. So, it'll be exciting to see how that transfers, right? Like we don't often think baseball's a big concentration sport, but you've got to, when the bases are loaded. Yeah. And I think that's the situation we got here.
Yeah.
Bases are loaded for him.
Kind of likewise on the girls' side. I mean, it's funny because we're talking about for Ryland, like this is his first time at state. Here's a guy who might sweep. On the girls' side, you got Roxy Unruh. I'm going to pronounce her name wrong because I always do. Cheyenne Wells Jr., she swept the state last year, 100, 200, 400 as a sophomore, and she's heading back as the favorite. She's currently number 1 in all three events. I remember last year when she swept in, I think I remember writing about this. I was like, we could be seeing 3 years of this. 3 years of one name, one girl dominating the entire state from sophomore to senior year. And currently right now she's looking like she's on pace to do it again.
100%. And I think one of the biggest things we're seeing also too now is like everything's starting to settle down because so many schools moved out of that 4A distinction last year. Like Golden's a great example as a high school that moved out of that. And so we've got some new schools in 5A. We've got like Timnath, I think they moved to 4A. Moved to 4A.
Yeah,
so, we're going to start to see that those schools, their programs are going to have to step up, and we're seeing a lot of that change, but also kind of saying some of the same old. I think when we look at 2A and we look at distance, I mean, it's hard not to talk about Bobby Keysweater. He's number 1 in the 8, the 16, the 32, 155, 419, 927. No state titles to his name. He was he got a little stuck in cross country. I think just was a little sick leading into it, and so had a rough day out there. But just and having a chance to talk to him, like he's excited. So excited that actually at Pomona came down that home stretch. Celebrating a lot. I think he was kind of getting ready for that state title finish. So we'll see if he brings that same energy or if, he takes it all the way into the finish instead of celebrating early. But he's not going to be alone. He's definitely not going to be alone out there. I mean, we've got Baruch Begashaw out of Lotus, James Talbot from Rangeley. He leads, but on race day, like you're going to have the same 3 guys, all 3 races. Yep. The difference here is that this isn't sprints. So you're not going to see the rounds. It's going to be about who's going to have the best recovery day to day. And who's going to, who knows how to take care of themselves the best in that situation. And so also looking at the results, like Bobby sat out some races this weekend, right? And so I think there's
a bit of a mind game as well.
Totally.
Like, specifically thinking about Bobby here, like here he has a Jeffco number 1 in 3 events, and he hasn't won a state title yet. Obviously, you want one. But you want 1 or do you want 3? Like, and then obviously let's pretend you win one. And when someone's been eyeballing a state title for so long, they get that state title. What does that do to them mentally moving forward? Are they like, I'm good, I'm done, I got my state title? Or are they like, regroup?
Yeah, you got to put the foot on the gas.
Yep.
You got to put your foot on the gas for that one, I think, and stay locked in the whole time. You got to stay hungry that whole time. And hopefully that's what we'll see. But this is what makes it so exciting.
Yeah. It's all the questions that make it exciting.
Absolutely.
I mean, speaking of questions, I don't know if this is much of one, but I'm looking at the girls' throws. 2A, Brooke Schmidt. She's thrown 146.5 in the discus. What's exciting about this is not just like the best in 2A. A lot of times when we're looking at smaller schools, it's kind of like, oh, it's 2A, it's 1A, but this is one of these things where that's actually one of the best marks in the entire state.
100%.
So she's one of the best throwers in the entire state coming out of 2A. When I was looking at her stats, I thought what was so cool was she's competed in the discus 11 times this season. That's already a lot. Like I can't even imagine running like 11 800s in one season. But she's done the discus 11 times this season, and she's improved every time.
Yeah,
like that's frightening.
And it goes back to kind of what we saw, with some other athletes that like, where is that limit, right? Whether that's running, every time you've showed up, you've PR'd, or it's going out in the discus. It's like, where is my limit, right? Yeah. And if you've got the energy in the right place, set and setting is everything. And being able to go throw really far, I think is set up for that. Maybe
she's obviously still finding that too, given the fact that she's PRing like every time she's out there competing. Like again, how the rarity of that is just ridiculous.
Yeah, let's hope the standards are big enough for some of these athletes out here. Again, looking at the relays, North Fork girls, 10:25 number 1, but Byers at number 6 is 10:30. So again, you've got 6 teams in 5 seconds. Like
that's exciting.
It's hard for me to not get excited about the relays because there's just so much energy. You got 18 teams that are all on that start line, and it's so many people, so much is happening, and then it's like, oh my gosh, it all gets figured out in the back stretch, but it's never quite over. And then the boys 4x4, again, Byers is in there now, number 1, North Fork, Peyton. Those 3 teams are separated by 3.5 seconds. So efficiency is going to be everything to that exchange zone. And I think from there, like, we talked about 1A, 2A, now moving like into 3A. So we're kind of moving into some of the bigger schools here.
There's good questions in 3A.
There's a lot of questions, I think.
Like starting with 1, I think this is one has only caught my attention the last 2 weeks or so. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast. Effie Fletcher, coming out of Coleridge, sophomore, runs 2:19 all season long. She's consistently running 2:19, and then she goes 2:12:13. It's like a 7-second PR in the 800. Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a whole lot.
And she right there already kind of put herself on the map. Like she's gonna be the favorite to win the 800. But I have a question once we look at that 16, because the last couple of years, Delaney Reuter Eaton has been running great. She's run 4:59 in the 16. She's run 10:24 in the 32, which that 10:24 is a state lead, all classifications, which is in my mind says that 10 or that 4:59, she's going to run faster in the 16. But when I see this, I've got, you see Effie and then you see Delaney. They're going to come down and meet each other in the 16. What I get vibes of is Parker Wolf and Harrison Witt from a few years
100%.
ago. Parker was like state, record holder in the 32. Harrison state record holding 8 in the 800. Both of them did hold the state record in the 16 at one point in the same season. They meet in the 16. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to have the same kind of fireworks, but what I like is seeing like an up-and-comer with Effie and then Delaney, who's kind of like the seasoned vet, and they're going to be meeting here at the state championship for the first time all season long. With Effie, going back to that 2:12, how much faster does she run? Have like with competition?
100%. And my dark horse in this is I'm going to mispronounce her name. I think it's Yashalk. She's run 2:19, but again, like we saw, like that 6 seconds in the right race. You go put yourself in the race.
Possible.
Like how much competition have they seen?
Yeah.
And how many times have they been pressed for that challenge? And so like 2 through 4 are separated less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So in my mind, like I think it's going to be fireworks at the Bell Lap for that race. So the mid distance races, I think are going to get a lot of love. I know we got to talk a little bit of jumps and some more boys distance here. I know girls, Jordan Halley, University, long jumps 19.15, triple 37.25.
She's one of the best long jumpers in the state. Horizontal jumpers.
Yeah.
Coming out of 3A, that's another one of these, like she's in her own realm too.
Well, and I think that's the big thing too, is like part of the reason that we put 1A, 2A, 3A in here is like, I think sometimes they get the rap that just because they're smaller schools that like gets a lot of 4A, 5A love, but a lot of these kids can go and compete with the same at 5A. 4A, and it's not a
on that topic.
Yeah,
as we move into the boys' distance.
Yeah,
on topic of guys who can definitely kind of hold their own against the big school. Jackson Fagerlin. We can't talk about the 3A distance landscape without talking about the defending state champ, Resurrection Christian Senior. He's the defending state champ in the 8 and 16. He's run 153.45, 418 so far this season. He is the number 1 runner in 3A right now in those 2 events. But what I love about his story is the fact that it's attached to his little brother. Yep. He has his own story, but he's got his little brother Lincoln, who's number 2 in the 16 and number 2 in the 8, having run 154 in the 8 as a freshman.
Nuts.
That's pretty ridiculous. So right here, there's a potential for a Fagerlin family 1-2 finish in the 8 and 16. And another thing that's kind of cool about this is Jackson. I covered his entire high school career. I remember his first state title, and what's interesting now is the fact that he might go out. I mean, he's got to beat his little brother first to win state. Nothing's given, but he's got to do that, and it's almost like passing the torch because his 100%. Little brother is right hot on his heels. It'd be interesting to see, his little brother Lincoln kind of like step into that next year.
Oh, 100%. I think that's always what you see with like, athletes that have a sibling and do that as, he got the fast forward button because he got to watch his brother make all the mistakes. And it's like, I got to go past that because now I know exactly what I should be doing. But I also feel a little bit for Jackson because those records are probably not going to stay for very long.
Yeah, when you got a little brother in your heels, like.
Yeah, and that 3,200, speaking of it, is, those top three are only separated by 5 seconds. It's truly anybody's race. It's all about, who's got it on that day.
How does the race play
5
out?
seconds is nothing in a 32.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Not even a second a lap.
Before we move on to some relays, and we got to mention this just because this is a state lead, but Troy Sorwas from Centauri, 6'11" in the high jump. I felt like when last year we saw 7 feet multiple times, I didn't think we'd see 7 feet be flirted with again. But Troy going 16:11 a couple of weeks ago, again, that's like kind of revving up right on time. With this weather potentially being perfect, low wind, does he get over 7 feet? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
We'll know in about a week.
Yeah, the energy is for sure going to be there. I think speaking to like energy all about it, I'm looking at that 4x4. When we talk about nail biters, we've got, Berthoud, TCA, Coleridge separated by less than half a second. 407.35 to Coleridge's 407.79. Now that is as of
what time is it? It's like 6:30, or as far as we know.
Yes, 6:30 as of right now. This is it's separated by less than half a second. So
I'm not picking any favorites here, but I hope it finishes that way.
That'd be
in
really
terms
cool.
of being that close.
Yeah, I would love to see it come down to 3 in the.
That would be a
finish.
dive at the line, maybe a baton kind of rolls away or something like that's.
Yeah, I can see the photos now. I think when it comes down to it, though, I think everybody is here for one big classification story, and we know you've got your Ben Afflecks, got your Ben Stillers, Ben Franklin, and I still don't think we're not expecting a lightning storm, by any means here, but I don't think either of these athletes. Figures the bends out there can run as fast as the 3 bends that we've got kind of up for the first thing here in 5A.
Before we go forward, though, no one's probably going to remember this, but there was a collaboration between the bends in terms of like Ben Folds, Ben Queller, and Ben Lee, these musicians like 20 years ago.
Here we go.
I just thought about that, but nothing as good as we're probably going to see here.
Ben Folds 3?
Yeah.
That's a bad
So
joke.
we got a battle of bends in the distance races, 16s and 32s. Before we kind of talk about Ben Anderson, Ben Adams, and Ben Lee, I looked at this a couple hours ago, what it took to even qualify for the 3,200 meter in 5A this year. 9:28 is the 18th fastest as of a couple hours ago. I don't think any 32s are being run today.
I think they're all set. But what does that come down to? 44 pace?
Yeah, that's quick.
Something like that. 444, I think, if I got my numbers right here.
There's multiple questions here between Benji Adams, I called him Ben, 901 earlier, Ben Adams 902, and then Ben Lee, like he's run 916 up top, but I believe he's kind of going to be more in that mix. So the question is not only who wins, but does anyone break 9? It's only been done officially in Colorado once, and I say officially because Cole Sprout did do it unofficially, but it's only been done once, and obviously Benji was going for it like this is a little over a month and a half ago, running 901 that early.
I think his eyes are set directly on that.
Yeah, that's what my question here was, because I know you know him pretty well. With these kinds of races, and I was thinking about this when we were driving over, do you just win because it's a state title, or do you want to run fast and then maybe get second?
It's a phenomenal question.
Like what if you lead the whole thing, you get out kicked, but you run 8:59, and you're second place. So like,
I mean,
what do you want more? And I feel like none of you, I'm pretty sure these 3 guys will answer this question in a week from now. But that's kind of something in the back of my mind is like, what do you kind of value more? Because it's a gamble, especially when you're this close. It's a gamble to jump in the front to lead.
Totally. And that's what I hope happens.
Yeah.
Like, I hope it isn't a conservative kind of sit back. Okay, we're going to go through them. I mean, there's been years in the past. I think back to like when I think it was the 4A 3,200 a couple years ago. I think it opened in 5:10.
Yeah, they went really slow, and then it was a burner in the end of it.
Yeah, 4:24, something like that to close for like a 9:34 or something, which is absolutely respectable. But ran it the hard way. Kind of Centrowitz flashbacks there for me.
That's why I always, as an example, last night I saw the girls 1,600 at St. Vrain, and Addie was kind of leading a ton of most of the race, and then she gets out kicked by Rosie, we'll talk about her in a bit.
Yeah.
But I went up to Addie afterwards, and I was like, hey, like, thanks for making that race. Like, I like it when people kind of put themselves in the position to potentially fail.
Yeah.
Like, you might get beat, but you're still at least kind of keeping that race quick, or you're keeping it honest. I really like that. And I'm hoping that someone does that here because the boys 32, the boys 16 as well, looking at, what it took to qualify for 2018.
Yeah.
For 2018 just to get to the state meet.
Just to get there.
And we're in Colorado. So like doing the altitude on that, this is, up to dispute, but 7 seconds. You're talking about 4:13. Like find another state in the U.S. where it takes 4:13 to get to the state meet.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find one, but I mean, we've got 3 Bens in here, but there's actually a 4th. Ben Wolf is in there. He's not too far out there. So you got 4 Bens in that 1600. Top 18, as you said, 420.18. Like, I think that's mind-boggling to me to imagine. Like, I think even 3-4 years ago that was probably close to a state top 5.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're seeing shoe technology. We're seeing, better recovery, better training all around come into play here.
What I like really quick with this one is I'm going to go ahead and say dark horse because we haven't mentioned his name too much, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to say his last name wrong again because I say everyone's last name wrong. But Cadell Ruthven from Fort Collins Jr., 4'11", last night at St. Vrain. His name's not Ben.
Yeah, it's very true.
He's not a Ben. He's a Cadell. But what's cool here is like, look at this. We got 4 guys, 5 guys under 412. Like looking at 5A16, it's kind of one of those that could go anyway, depending on how the race unfolds. Is it one of those kicker races, or is it going to be a burner from the get go? We'll know more. But the side note is we got Cadell and Ben coming back next year. We're 2 guys who have already run 4:11 or faster are returning.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to see what we saw in 2021 where we saw Harrison and Parker kind of going at it like sub 4.7s. Like that could be the future. That could be the next year too. Really
could. It could be, really exciting to see there. And I think again, like not to repeat the same story over and over, like we have 3 really strong athletes there, even into the 800, but you got 4 sub 153s, but we've also seen some athletes out here that I think are really just starting to get some competition. They haven't seen, how many 153 guys are really out there and how often are you going to see them? Yeah. This is the weekend to do it. My dark horse is actually sitting in the front row right here. I'm going to put my money on Cam Shull here, for definitely getting into that top 3, maybe squeaking it out. I think, who's got the kick? I think it's going to come down to that last 250 meters in my book to make an exciting race.
That's what's interesting too when you look at the 800 and the 16 and the 32, but looking at like in reference to speed, how many guys are fast? Like you just mentioned, like how many 153 guys are out there? Like it kind of just depends on how the race unfolds. But looking at how many guys have run these kinds of speeds, it kind of going back to that 16, how does that affect how that race plays out? Because obviously you've got, Benji and Ben who are, I think, more 32 guys, but then you've got a guy like Ben Lee who's here like running 152.16. Like how does that change how the race unfolds? Because if I was Ben Lee, I'd sit and kick. If I were Ben Adams or Benji, I'd be hammering from the front trying to take the legs off them.
And we'll have to look at the schedule because, is it a chicken egg scenario, right? Like which comes first? Is it, if that 32's there and they you burn all your matches going sub 9 and, going after, a pretty big record, what's left? And again, like we had talked earlier about Bobby, are you going to want to go after more, right? Are you going to be satisfied with that? And again, like I know that a lot of athletes are going to go out there and be like, well, I want to go all 3. And I do not blame them, but what's physiologically possible is the big question there. And now we're kind of moving, kind of keep working our way down here. I know this is a lot of, we got the boys here, we got boys 400 in here now. Like I think we got Pooter, Cherokee Trail, like we got sub 50, 18th. Like it took sub 50 to get to state. 49.77 as of writing this was 18th.
And what I like with this, kind of like everything else we've been talking about, this is quantity and it's quality. Because 100%. When we're looking up front, what's interesting here, we've got Gary Lockman, who's the state lead, 47.53, and then you've got Peyton Summers, 47.54. What's interesting about this storyline right here is Gary, I want to say like earlier in the season was running 49s.
Yep.
And then he pops like a 2-second PR. Peyton has been great his entire high school career. And so you have kind of like the vet versus like the upstart kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So they're coming to this from 2 different areas, like 2 different mindsets. And when I talked to Gary at St. Vrain, when he popped that, he was super excited, but he was super motivated because he's like, I can do this. Like I actually can do this now. Like I've been putting in the work and this is proof that like I actually belong here. And what I like with that is, again, like he's going to be racing someone like Peyton, who's kind of used to being up front. I think it's going to make for a great race.
Yeah.
I mean, they're separated by 100th of a second. They haven't raced each other recently, but they're on time 100th of a second.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not going to pick sides on how this plays out, but I would love for it to finish like that.
Absolutely. And I think like the prelim is going to be really exciting because
it's that strategy.
But you still got to get through,
Yep.
right? You got to use as little energy to get through.
Yeah.
But still have hopefully a 47.4
Yeah.
in your legs after that. And again, like, I don't have everything in front of me right now, but it's like, I'm going to assume with 47.5 speed, they're probably in the 100.
Yeah.
Probably in the 2. So again, where does the priority with some of these athletes that have the opportunity to triple
Not
or
just the
quadruple?
race that we're looking at on the screen here. It's like, how do you...
And relays.
Yeah.
Like again, like relays play into this. It's team points. Like we haven't really talked about team standings all that much. And I think, before we get into like a few more of the big races and the girls side is like Mountain Vista, Fossil Ridge, girls 5A there. Like I'm thinking, and we look at the whole team thing of all considered here, like, could we see Mountain Vista get upset? I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
It's really hard to tell.
Before we move on to girls, boys pole vault, Taylor Waters, one of the best pole vaulters in the state, 16.8. It's been a handful of years since Colorado has seen someone kind of flirt a little bit there with 17 feet. I would love to see him go over 17 feet. It's funny. I saw Max Manson, who has the state meet record. I saw him compete last night at St. Vrain in the Open, and I started thinking about Taylor Waters. I'm like, here's a guy who could go to the state meet and actually start, getting over 17 feet would be awesome, because I don't think no one has done it since Max Manson. And this was 2018, I believe.
Yep.
So that'd be cool. Looking at the boys discus, we got the defending state champ, Jarius Ward from Overland, 2:03.4 PR at state meet last year. I think he hadn't been nowhere near 200 feet. He'd been, I think, in the 180, 190 range. Kind of like this year, he's going 191. Obviously he's going to want to defend that state title. Currently looking at rankings, there's no one near him. He's light years beyond the competition, which in one perspective, I think from a mental perspective, that means he can just focks on throwing. He can just focus on himself. You're going to get that state title. How far are you going to throw? That's the question. And I know he's going to want to go beyond what he did last year. And over 200 feet in the discus is pretty wild. That puts 100%. Him in some of the best in the country.
I mean, we talk about wild. I think we're in the thick of it here, and I'm gonna let you take the girls 32 here, because I mean, there's so many here. I think the only headline that I'll lead with is like top 18 in the girls 32. Like I told many of my athletes before going in, I'm like, I think it's gonna go sub 11.
Yeah,
for top 18, and as of today, right now, and I think we've got all the 32s in 10:58.
Yeah. What's funny about this is about a month ago on the podcast, I mentioned I think it was 14 girls or 15 girls have broken 11 minutes across all classifications. How many more will there be? 18 broke it in just 5A alone. That's wild. Again, that's kind of going on the theme here of everyone's getting really fast.
Really fast. And we've you said Kinley Wolf's there, Keegan Edwards, Tatum Berg, Emery Schwalm. I know Emery ran 10:17 at Arcadia. And most of the races that she's run over the last, 2 or 3 races here, competition hasn't really put a lot of pressure on her. So, put her in a great race. Even in Nike Indoor, ran US number 10, 10:18. So she knows she's fit when she's in a race of competition. So she's in the mix.
And Kinley's run 10:26. Keegan had the race of her life at NXN. And she's actually had a great season already. I did see her last night, and she did not race at all this weekend, so she's resting up. Yep. She did mention, I think she's going to run the 4x8 as well, but not running this weekend and then saving it all for next week. And obviously, she wants a state title.
100%.
She doesn't have any state titles right now.
Yep.
She wants a state title. And I think the 32 is going to be the best option, but Kinley Wolf has been running great. Again, 10:26, I think that was about a week ago.
Yeah.
So she's another one of those athletes who's running right in time. Moving down to the 16, this is where things get wild for me. I think when we go to the 16 is where I think everything kind of clashes. We're going to talk about Rosie in the 8, but last night again, St. Vrain, she kicks to win 4:46, and I said this to her last night. I was like, I would hate to be in a race with you, on my back with 400 meters to go or something, because she has the craziest kick. But what's interesting with how she raced last night was Addie, Ritzenheim set a really hot pace from the start. Yeah. Which normally that kind of takes the kick out of a kicker. Yep. And Rosie proved that no, she can hang, she can run with she can run with a hot pace and still kick off it. Because I know I would imagine her preferred strategy is to sit and kick. Like that's what she always does. But the harder you make that pace, the harder you're going to make it for her to run or to win the race. But she proved that she can do it last night. But what I'm curious now is with Keegan. Because again, Keegan's one of those, she's more of a strength runner. She's more of that 32, 5K, 16. Does she, again, are we going to go back to the whole Parker Wolf Harrison Witt sort of ordeal here? Because, Keegan's a person who can handle a really, really hot pace. But then, we go down this list. We got Julia Froome, we've got Mia Williams, we've got Emily Cohen. These are, everyone I've mentioned so far has run under 453 or 453 or faster.
Yep.
And kind of like we talked about the boys' mile here was like, how does this race unfold? Because girls like Rosie and Julia and Mia are all like very 800 oriented. And so how does that change, Keegan or Emily Cohen? Like, does that change how they race? Because you're racing these girls who are probably just going to want to sit kick.
Yeah, but if it's a kicker's race, I mean, you can't ignore that, Rosie just ran 208.
Yeah. That's it. Going down to the...
Can't ignore that.
I think you mentioned this, her 208.59. She's a 2-time defending state champ in the event. She leads the state in the event by, was that 4 seconds?
Yeah, 4 seconds.
800 by 4 seconds. I mean, like, that's insane. Like, that's 2 seconds per lap.
Right.
She could easily just blow through the first 400, 2 seconds ahead of the field, and that's it. Like, that's kind of how good she is. And actually what's exciting is that's how good she's been running.
And I think also about like Eliana Angelino, right?
Yep.
Ellie's having a phenomenal senior season.
season.
She broke her ankle in a climbing accident last year. But also the last 212 that she ran, I know Mia was in that race, they split 68-64.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
you don't usually see a 212 go.
They're going to run 210. Or they can run 210 or faster.
210, I think it's possible. So it's going to come down to, that leg speed, right? And
does anyone go after Rosie? If Rosie jumps to the front, which I would imagine she will, because she did that last year. But looking at this list here, there's 3 or 4 more girls who've run between 212 and 213.
Chase is a race, man.
Who get, I'm not going to say it's all Rosie who's going to win this, but I'd say what she's done this season and the fact that she's won this race twice already, she deserved to be, the favorite or spoken of as the favorite heading into Jeffco. So I'm not going to say she's gone, but maybe the race is for second and who gets second. Yeah. I can't pick between this list.
It's too tight to even think about it. And then we can even look into there. We see Ellie's name again. We see another Ellie in there, Ellie Londo, girls 400. We got 3 girls sub 56, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Again,
this is another one of those races that's going to be very close. And I don't feel like there is a favorite per se, because all three of these girls, or I mean, looking at the sprints, Zona Welling, Ellie Londo, Addison Smith, and we're going to see these 3 names in addition to Eliana and Annalena Torres, like from the 400 on down. Yep. It goes one of 2 ways in my mind. Either A, like one athlete dominates and wins 3 state titles or 2 state titles, or we have 3 different athletes win state. And obviously, I think all of these names, they are all probably, I would imagine, could all have the confidence that they're like, I won all 3, or at least 2 of the 3. Yeah. But having that many people with the same exact goal makes things difficult.
Yeah, and I think the other piece to speak of here, when we go back and look at that 400, just one thing to consider, like, I know some of these girls, most of them are going to be in relays. Mm-hmm. I know Eliana doesn't have that. So, she's going to have that freshness thing on her side, for sure. We look at now jumps real quick as we get towards the end of things here. Like, long jump, we got Kaylee Powell.
Yep.
Powell?
Yeah.
Kapow. Cherokee Trail, senior, long jump 20 feet
in the long jump. She's okay. Here's where things, I think this is where we're kind of like closing with this almost. She has gone 42.175 in the triple jump, which is one of the best in Colorado ever. Yep. But it's wind aided, so it does not count. But she has gone 41.11 wind aided. So the reason why we're talking about this is the state record is 42.55. So she is within with the wind aided, that's 4 inches. Yep. Without the wind aided, 7 inches? Yeah. She's been great her entire high school career. Like I've said this about a couple of athletes. So the question is, does the state record fall? Agora Dwell did this a couple of years ago. She actually broke her record twice. But now here we go. We got Kylie Poe like kind of knocking on the door here. We could see another state record. This would be the second one this season since we saw Eagle Crest girls in the 4x1 earlier today. God, there's a lot to be excited about.
So much to get excited about. And I think, it would be silly of us to not kind of say, hey, do we have some favorites out here? I had to sit with it for a while. For me, it's actually the 4A 4x8 I love seeing the 4x8s. For me, it's I would say all the relays in general, but 4A, 4x8, both boys and girls would have to be, if I have to choose one, it's going to be really tough. So I'll say boys and girls 4x8 and 4A.
Oof, I'm kind of scanning over this list, and to be honest, I got nothing.
Yeah.
There's like, I've got too many. Like, I think like in reference to the boys distance, like the scope of the 8 to the 32, same thing with 4A boys, girls distance. Like, I feel like the distance this year, the quality and the quantity has been like ridiculous.
Yes.
Like in past years, there's usually been like one or two people, one or two guys or girls that have just been purely dominant. And this year, I feel like it's kind of all over the place. Like, again, like we didn't even talk about, we touched briefly on a sub 932, but that can happen in 4A and 5A.
Yep.
And which is kind of like, okay, like, and again, Parker Wolf he's run 855 in the 32. That's the state record. And I know Benji Anderson has talked about looking at that and going for it. State meet doing it, that's the question. Because again, here's going back to the question. Well, let's pretend you break the state record, you run 854 and you're second.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
100%. It's always worth it, right? I mean, that puts you in a very special class of people, right? There's a very small gap of people that get to say that. And yeah, it might feel disappointing, but I mean, you're one of two. You're one of two that have done it then. And that's, I think, really special. So again, I think to all these athletes, I think the thing that I will recognize as a coach is just how much work they've all put in here. Like, I know many of these kids started, not just thinking about this season, but started training back in January.
Yeah. It starts when snow's on the ground. Actually, sometimes it even starts last summer.
Yeah.
Like, I can think of when I was in high school, bombing out of my junior year of the track season, like it's the top two, the way you qualify for state in Georgia, top two of the region qualify. I finished third. Literally the next day, I was like, I went for a run. My coach had to like tell me to take a break, but I went for a run. I'm like, I will never be outkicked again.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about the following year already, just because it was burning in me. And so for some of these athletes, I would imagine they're thinking about this. I mean, kind of, we're talking about Bobby down in a 2A distance, a guy who obviously wants a state title. I would imagine he's been thinking about this for a while.
And I think the other thing too is like, seasons are supposed to come to an end, right? And for some people, like I can think of people who are going to experience a little heartbreak because they're going to be 19th. Yeah. They're going to be 20th, in these rankings. But that's the beauty of this, is that like it does keep you hungry and it's what you do with it. Yeah, exactly.
As long as you think, like, let's pretend that there will be plenty of, right at this moment, it's almost 7 p.m. There will be plenty of athletes across all 5 classifications that are going to be 19th in the rankings, and they are not, their season's done. And it's what you do with that now. Yeah. And as long as you use that for next year, use that for next year, use it moving forward to continue staying motivated. That's the point.
Yeah. And it's not over. I mean, we still have we got a lot of postseason, and that's what's crazy is that you can make 19th in the state of Colorado. And guess what? You're still able to go to nationals because it takes national level contenders to make the state meet. Like, that's what I don't think a lot of people understand when we're talking about these times. To some people, it's just numbers, but like the ability to not make your state meet, but you're going to go raise some of the best in the nation. Like, that's a wild thing to consider when you think about like just how deep this really, really is.
Particularly in Colorado. Colorado's just wild.
It's stacked.
I have not seen it anywhere else. So.
I know the last thing we had a couple Q&As on Instagram that came over there. I know we have one of those Q&As that came in here. Do you want to ask what your big question was? I think you had a good one in there.
You had a few, didn't you? Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. I feel like the question was like, where did the passion come from? Something like that, I believe. So without diving into too much detail, I'll say that I ran high school cross country and track, and it saved me in a lot of ways. Like, it gave me purpose, it gave me community, having teammates, people to run with, people to sweat with. Like, it was huge in so many ways. And what I loved about it was that, like I said, it gave me community. And it made me feel like I was a part of something bigger than just me. It wasn't just me out there running on the trails. It was the team. It was my coach. Like, it was whenever we were running with other guys, other teams. And so fast forwarding to doing this kind of as a lifestyle or, as a career, I kind of want to create that community aspect as well. And that's what I love with Colorado is like so many athletes like intermingle with other athletes. Like, everyone's friends. Doesn't matter who you run for, what team you run for. I think it's awesome, but that's something I've always wanted to create because I know that there is a 15-year-old version of me out there who probably just really needs it, like to feel like there's something else out there that you can be a part of. So that's kind of how I got into it. I mean, it's been a long time for me, but yeah.
That's great. We got one other one in there, maybe?
Did you have another one too?
Well, only one of us actually run on the college level here, so I'll pass you to first, Bobby.
I will say it's more stressful. It's you're everything is elevated. You're on a much bigger stage. But if in terms of competing or wanting to go into college level, my high school coach gave me one of the best advice that I had was so long story. He was like the best man at my wedding. He's like one of my best friends, and he said like, find someone that you can trust, like in terms of a coach, like, or find a team or a coach that you can trust, because these are people you're going to be spending a lot of time with. And so that was huge for me to kind of make sure I'm finding people that, you're giving time to. I'm trying to think of three things because that was only one. I just say, again, like the level of everything gets elevated, training gets more intense. The athletes, everyone's even faster. Maybe my second thing would be patient. Because, if you're going to college and you're running, everyone's somebody. Everyone was somebody in high school. Everyone was a varsity, athlete or a state champion or went to state or something. And so you have all of these athletes who are so good. And I feel like usually for most athletes, the first year or two, you're just going to get destroyed. Like you're going to get buried by everyone else. But if you can last long enough to junior year, senior year, you're going to start making huge improvements, and you start kind of becoming more confident as an athlete on the track or the cross country, courses. So it's really about being patient. I think that's a big piece. Third one, can't think of three. Enjoy it. Because, this actually goes even along with high school competition. Is if you get the opportunity to compete in college, take it. I would totally do it. It's some of the most fun times I've had my entire life. The places you get to travel to, the places you get to race. It's you get this one time in your life. Like in high school, you never get this high school experience again. The same thing can be said about college. That's not to say that afterwards it's all downhill. Like actually, there's plenty out beyond that. But I really feel like getting the opportunity to compete in high school and compete in college is not everyone gets to do it. Mm. And that's even why, at least for me, I kind of like wanted to savor it all the more, because it's some of the best times I've had in my life.
Yeah. I think if I had three to athletes, be present, right? Like enjoy those moments, like especially in high school, like you get one high school career, you get one college career. Mm-hmm. So like be present. Don't get so caught up in trying to chase the results and the times. Like we talked about athletes that aren't going to make state, right? They're going to be 19th, they're going to be 20th. And it's like, oh my God, everything's gone. But it's like, no, be present, be in the moment and enjoy that and learn how to enjoy that. I think the second is like the great broken leg rule when it comes to college is like, make sure that wherever you're looking to go, that you love that place, but also like it should be about academics first. You are a student athlete. So make sure that you're there for academics and not just the running side of things. Like you're a student athlete. That's an important thing. So maybe it's a piece of advice, maybe it's a personal priority, but I feel like you're still there to get an education, because what's beyond running for many people that are in college, that is the end of the road for the competitive, that level of competition of running. Mm-hmm. But there is still more running beyond it. And I think that's the third thing here is like, make sure that you, like Bobby said, enjoy it. Enjoy the process of training, and that you like the people that you're going to be training with, that you like the coach. Don't just go there because you got a good offer and it was your first offer and you're just happy that someone noticed you and liked you. Like I have watched athletes that do that and then they're just like, oh, I kind of hate it here. Yeah. And so it's just like, make sure that you also zoom out that this is a business deal, right? When you're going to college, especially now, it's a business deal. And so like, just kind of have that mindset of like, I have to look at this and be objective with everything that I'm doing. Do I like to be here? If I didn't run, would I still love it? So I think those are kind of my three.
It's like the culture, finding a culture that you want to be part of.
Culture is everything. And did we have one more, or we saw
one of the other ones we had on Instagram was sleepers in the 4A boys 816. I'll start with this since I kind of touched on this already.
Yeah.
Again, butchering the name here, Curtis Smella. He's, I think, number 2 in the 16. So he's not exactly a sleeper, but the reason why I say this is because he's run 155 in the 8. So he's not exactly like one of those like podium guy, or what you would assume to be a podium guy. And he's also, he's from Thompson Valley. He's not part of the big 3, which I'll call, Niwot.
Yeah. And
Coronado or Cheyenne Mountain.
I'm going to go Xavier Campos in the 16 there, just because.
Can you call him a sleeper?
I would. I mean, when you look at this year, right? He's coming back from injury.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So like the confidence is going to be something that's going to come into play, but also like he doesn't have as many races in his legs.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, sleeper, we could probably use that term loosely. We know he's a talented young man, but in terms of like, has he been in the headlines as much lately?
Yeah. I think another one that I would say would actually be Nolan Fackwell from Air Academy, 154.91 in the 8. I mean, I think he's seated number 4 as of this recording.
Yeah.
But in terms of guys who are, not names we've mentioned too much.
Totally.
Yeah, that's who I would have.
I think that's.
Does anyone else have questions in the back? No. Yeah.
Will Bobby ever cut his hair is the big question.
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I'll trim it, but I have had hair this long since 2011.
We'll have to ask Liz. You going to make him cut it sometime?
No,
Bobby with a buzz cut?
Oh no, I did that once and it was a horrible idea.
Yeah, I don't know if we need Bobby with a buzz cut. I think we'll keep the Eddie Vedder look for a little while. But I think that's everything we got. We got some raffles, so if you guys aren't here, you're missing out.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
before we tap out, I guess thanks again to the sponsors.
Yeah.
Runners Roost for kind of
staying late. Our guys over there, thank you guys for staying a little bit late tonight. But also Scratch Labs for joining us, as well as we mentioned Runners Roost, Scratch Labs, and
Niwot Market.
Yeah.
And I guess a big good luck to everyone who qualified for the next week's state meet. And for those of you whose seasons ended today, savor it. And actually, congratulations for enduring another season here in Colorado.
Absolutely.
It's been great to cover the season, to kind of cover every week. So I know you're excited about next week.
Super pumped. I'll be out there with a camera. I know you're going to be out there as well.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
It'll be some coverage.
3 days of no sleep.
We'll see you guys next week. See you guys soon.
Doing it all for you, my Lewis. I'm just getting started. Doing it all for you, my Lewis. So